Hello everyone. Let's begin with Unit 4, Chapter 3 Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Gabriel Verne. Now let us know something about our writer, that is the novelist Jules Verne. Jules Verne was a French novelist, poet, and playwright. He wrote many adventure novels, including Journey to the Center of the Earth, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and Around the World in 80 Days. These are considered as classics today. The given extract comprises of the last few chapters of Around the World in 80 Days and has an amazing twist at the end. The theme of the novel takes place in England. Now let's know about the major characters of the novel. Phileas Fogg, a British gentleman, the hero and protagonist of the novel or the story. Passepartout, a newly employed French personal and domestic servant of Mr. Phileas Fogg. Mr. Fix, a detective. Auda, a Parsi Indian princess. There are few other minor characters like Sir Francis Cromarty, John Bunsby, the Reform Club members, the Parsi Guide, Colonel Stamp Proctor, and few others in the story. Now, children, let us know the theme of the novel in a nutshell. The story begins at England. We are introduced to Phileas Fogg. He goes to the Reform Club regularly to play whist, that is, a card game, usually for two pairs of players, in which points are scored according to the numbers of tricks won. He plays this game with the other members over there. Mr. Fogg is the part of Reform Club. Reform Club is an elite social organization. Mr. Fogg reads in a newspaper in the club that it is possible to travel around the world in 80 days with the opening of the new railway station in India. Now, no one in the club believes this news. Everybody thinks it is fake. Only Phileas Fogg believes this news. Other members in the club raise a challenge for him. Mr. Fogg has a strong thirst for exploration and adventure to spend his leisure time. Mr. Phileas Fogg seems confident, courageous, inspiring, disciplined, diligent, hardworking, and a positive person to afford all means of crazy adventures. His friends at club challenge him. Mr. Fogg bets his friends to travel around the world in 80 days on £20,000 wager, that is, bet, which is set up by his friends at the Reform Club. Mr. Fogg leaves the place immediately. He begins his journey from his home and city of London along with his newly employed personal attendant or servant, Passepartout. Passepartout is an honest, tolerant, loyal, and a brave person. He accepts Mr. Fogg as his master in the journey. He is a comic person too and becomes very dear to the readers with his good sense of humor. Phileas Fogg takes the venture. He departs from London on October 2, 1870 at 8:45 p.m. by accepting the challenge of his friends at the club. It was decided that he must return to the Reform Club back by the same time on 21st December, just 80 days later. All the members of the club wondered, how can Mr. Fogg travel around the globe in such a short span of 80 days? Mr. Fogg and Passepartout go through Brindisi, Swiss, Bombay, that is now Mumbai, Calcutta, that is Kolkata, Hong Kong, Yokohama, San Francisco, New York, and finally Liverpool. Mr. Fogg and Passepartout experience many adventures during their train journey. They face many ups and downs, hurdles, problems, barriers throughout the entire journey. Mr. Fogg keeps himself firm for making his challenge or bet to be completed, which was traveling around the world in 80 days. He continues his journey by being calm and composed and tolerant and tries hard to reach his goal. He is determined to preserve his honor and wants to prove his worth to the members of Reform Club, his challengers. He spends a huge amount of money for his long journey to prove that he is not out to obtain money. To him, honor is more important than money. Yes, children, to him, honor is more important than money. Mr. Fogg and Passepartout somehow overcome all the problems encountered by them by using their quick thinking abilities. Every complicated problem is solved by them by using different innovative ways and ideas. Now, remember children, the main plot is based on Mr. Fogg's travels. Subplots in the novel support the main plot and the central theme. The subplots are intertwined with the main plot. Mr. Fix the detective follows Mr. Fogg and Passepartout all over their journey. Mr. Fix the detective believes that Mr. Fogg was the bank robber who has robbed a huge amount from the Bank of England. Children, there was a major bank robbery in England around sometimes before Mr. Phileas Fogg left for his journey. Now, Mr. Fix, the detective, comes to a wrong conclusion about Mr. Fogg and thinks that he is the bank robber and pretending to travel to escape his crime. He thinks he is covering up his crime. Mr. Fix, the detective, thinks that Mr. Phileas Fogg is hurrying from one place to another to avoid this situation, whereas the actual reason of Mr. Fogg's hurry was to win the bet. Actually, a similar looking person robbed the bank in England. Detective Fix thinks that Mr. Fogg is the same robber and so he too follows Mr. Fogg and Passepartout. He puts obstacles in Fogg's path so that he can arrest him whenever he gets the warrant against Mr. Fogg by the legal authority from England. Children, this story is to be continued in part 2. Thank you.